Okay. Can you see my screen? Brenda. Sorry, Isaiah.
Yes, I can hear
I
you.
can see your screen, Oga.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah. Good evening, everyone. I think happy Sunday to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity for having me today. Yeah. So my name is Folorunsho Ajala, and I'm a data and analytic engineer currently working at Onyx Data, and also as part of giving back to the community, I also serve as program lead at Data Tech Educational Hub, where we do giving back to the community like training, just like the way we are doing here as well at Data Job Nigeria as well. Also, in terms of professional experience, I have a quite number of experience in different platform, mostly around Microsoft, Databricks, Azure, Microsoft Fabric, yeah, and I've trained and I've worked in corporate organization like work in companies organization and I work on different several projects, including banking and banking projects, oil and gas project as well, and a couple of other things. And have also engaged in training. And over the years, I've trained over 2,000 participants, if not more than that as well. And not just training people, I've trained senior management, project managers, and a quite number of people that have done. Just not just about training alone. I've also built reports that it's it's useful for organization to make decision making as well. And like I said as well, I also like giving back to the community, which also part of the organizer of Data Tech Education Hub. So thank you very much, everyone, for having me today. I hope we enjoyed our session today. Please, it's going to be interactive section, so let's be open-minded and let's be ready to learn as well. So I know that I've been part of this training, I think since February or March this year when this training started, and we have been engaging in one learning or the other. Yeah, so we have learned several things. I think last week or a couple of weeks now, maybe like 2 weeks ago, we did something around the visualization, data designing, and all. So yeah, so today we are going to be looking at, I would say, let's say around DAX, which is data analysis expression, but my focus today is not focusing on the entire DAX. Please, Isaiah, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right, thank you. I will be asking this question often just to be sure that I'm still engaging everyone. And please, if you are also hearing, or maybe you can't hear me, you can just drop a chat, and probably I need to share my screen, or I need to, or maybe it's your network. You can just leave the call and join all over again. Okay, so like I said, we'll be looking at data analysis expression today, but my focus today will be on understanding virtual tables in Power BI. I think we have over 500 or more, if not more than that, DAX that we normally use in Power BI. But a quite number of people does not know that some of these DAX, maybe in real time or in your day-to-day job, you might not even use up to 20% of these DAX. But today, we'll just focus on the virtual tables. When we say virtual tables, what are virtual tables? What are the functions in Power BI that gives these virtual tables? So you'll be wondering, the virtual tables in Power BI, where does that come from? So it's nothing big deal. They are just functions that helps you to create a virtual tables, right? So, and when we say virtual tables, it means that the tables are not actually, what's it called? They are not actually physical. So when you hear virtual tables, it means the tables are not actually physical. So when we say virtual tables in Power BI, virtual tables are in-memory table created using DAX function. Created using DAX functions, they do not physically exist in the data model. But, yeah, they do not exist in the data model, but they are generated and used on the fly during calculation, especially within measures or calculated column. Now, I don't know. I need someone to convince me that virtual tables are actually they are they don't really physically exist. I think someone will disagree with me that that is not actually correct. That virtual tables are not. It is not true that they are actually not physically. Isaiah, you want to say something?
No, I just sneezed. Continue.
Okay, I think yeah. So I think some people will disagree with me with this statement that virtual tables are not. They actually exist, like they physically exist, and you can even add them to the data model. Yeah, that might be true, but maybe I'm going to change our perspective at the end of today's class on how we should use the virtual tables, right? So when we say virtual table, we say we say not visible, they are not visible in the field panel because we are actually using DAX to create this virtual table. Not stored, they are not stored in the data model, temporary, they are temporarily used during formula evaluation. So when you hear virtual tables, I'm very sure that some of us are very familiar with CTE. Maybe some of us that know SQL very well. There's something called CTE, which is common table expression. So common table expression in SQL is very, very similar to what we are calling virtual tables in Power BI. So when you create a virtual table or when you create CTE in SQL, what you are just saying is that you are creating a table within your query. The table does not physically available. By the time you execute that query, you cannot use the virtual table you created in that query any longer. The table can only work within that measure or within that query you created. So similar things happen within the Power BI environment as well. When you are creating a virtual table, the table you are creating exists within your measures. You are not physically storing the data in your tables or in your data model. So that is what we call the virtual table. But in some cases, a lot of people, let me say, most time, people misuse virtual tables, right? And when I say that they misuse it in terms of, when they are supposed to use virtual tables within measures, they tend to use it and create a physical table, which is not advisable, or it is not a best practice within the Power BI, because a quite number of times people have said this several times that don't create tables within the Power BI. If you want to create a table, either create it from your data source, or you create the tables within Power Query. But most times, we developers, Power BI developer, we tend to want to create virtual tables using the DAS, which is actually not the best practice anyway. So we'll see how we can create the physical table and how we can make use of these tables within measures as well, and how best practice to use them. So when we talk about virtual tables, what are the most common use cases for them? So sometimes we use it for filtering, we use it for dynamic calculation, advanced aggregation, and simulating relationship. So those are the things that we use it for. Then when we talk about the virtual tables, most of the things we do in Power BI, it's when it comes to the calculation or the DAX, we mostly use functions to carry out most of these activities. So what are the functions that is related to virtual table? So please, maybe you don't know any functions in Power BI before, right? You have not heard of any functions, you don't know any DAX function. I think tonight we are only focusing on the virtual table, which you should pay more attention to them today. Like, you should pay more attention to them, because at the end of the day, you should be able to understand, okay, when to use a particular function. Maybe not everything, but at least some of the selected function that we'll be looking at today, right? So you should know when to use a particular function and what exactly is a function doing. Because one thing that most of us does not understand when it comes to that is that we don't know when to use a particular function, and we don't know when or what exactly is this function doing, right? So sometimes we don't really know that. So if you pay attention closely, we should be able to gain one or two things at the end of the session. So we have about 6 or 7 functions highlighted as part of the virtual table that you can use in virtual table creation. So we have the filter function, the values function. I'm very sure that Uncle Ben have used value function in quite several number of times, on this call or in this our meeting. So he has used values function several times, summarize function, add columns. Maybe you have even used it before and you don't even know that this is exactly what the function is meant to do. I hope that at the end of today's class, you will get more enlightenment on what the functions are doing. Then we have the generate function and the hold function. So all these functions, they return what they call a virtual tables for you at the end of the day. They return the virtual tables for you. So those are some of the functions that we have. Because of time, I might not really, because I just have like about 1 hour, 30 minutes for this section. So I might not really be talking much about each of the function in depth. Probably I might have to share the slide with you all so that you can just read, the purpose of each of the functions. And so we'll just go into the practice section to, do more of practice, because that is what we are known for. We are known for, technical and practicing. So I think that would be more better. So that is all, So like I said earlier, virtual tables are dynamic. They are in-memory, temporary, and created on the fly for calculation. And when we talk about created on the fly, you mostly use this kind of tables when you are creating measures, not when you are creating physical table, or don't even use them to create physical table. If you want to create a physical table within the Power BI, it is always advisable to create that physical table in Power Query, or go to your data source and go and create it there. It enhances that capability, and it also helps in mastering key function like the values, summarize, add columns, and some selected columns as well. So mastering virtual tables unlock powerful data manipulation in Power BI. If you understand virtual tables at the end of the day, when you go for interviews, you can also be speaking. You can be speaking in the DAS language, not just any other language. So you can speak confident that you know some certain functions within the Power BI as well. So let's dive into the practice section, the demo section, and see what these functions are. Please, Isaiah, can you still hear me? I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, you are.
Right. Okay. Okay, so I think I have. Okay, so I will be using these PDF files as well for some of our demonstration. Like I said, have document all these things that we need to do today. So probably at the end of the day, just remind me. I might share this document with you just to read, and understand some of these function as well. So now, to go over what I said earlier again, when it comes to virtual tables, it is in two forms. What did I say? It is in two forms. Now, there is a form for physical appearance of the table, and there is a form that you don't see the table physically. You are just using the function within functions, like calculate functions. But sometimes if you use some of these virtual tables function, what you are going to get is a physical table. And don't forget, our best practice says that we shouldn't create tables within Power BI. Maybe one person or two person can tell us why it is not the best ideal to create physical table within the Power BI. Anybody, if you have any idea why we should not create a physical table within the Power BI, anybody, you can just raise your hand or you can just speak. Anyone? We have a quite number of intelligent people here, I believe. Okay, Isaiah. Isaiah, I don't want Isaiah to speak. No, I want someone else. Isaiah, I've heard your voice. So let someone else speak. Okay, yeah, Bernard. I can show yeah, can go.
Yeah, because of the model performance and optimization.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a very clear answers. Yeah, thank you very much, Bernard. So now, the reason why it is not advisable for us to create a table within the Power BI is because of the model performance. The more you create external, the more you create tables within Power BI, it enlarges the model, right? And sometimes you might have up to millions of data, and you're not creating another external additional tables again within it. It's going to be, and when it comes to refresh memories and all, is sorry, I need to plug my laptop. Okay, so please can you hear me? Sure, you can hear me. Please, can you hear me? Isaiah, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. All right, so like I said, when we create more tables within Power BI, it's going to be expanding our data model. And when it comes to now performance, that's where you start seeing that your Power BI might not open on time. And I've seen a lot of people making some of these mistakes, creating calendar table within Power BI. Even though you want to flex your knowledge of DAX, it is not the best practice to be creating, all these physical tables within the Power BI itself. It is always advisable that you use the Power Query or you create it from the data source as well. So like I said, in this section of demo, I'm going to be showing us the two forms of virtual tables. So I'll show us the physical appearance of the table, of the functions of those virtual tables, then how we can implement them in the measure, because measures is where the virtual tables actually, play a very good impact, right? And it is always advisable that you use those virtual table function within the measures, not use them to create a physical tables. I hope we understand that. Okay, so let's go. Let's dive into the. So you can see from my definition, like I say, virtual table cannot be returned directly by a measure. Measure must return a scalar. When we talk about measures, measures always return a singular value. Like when you do sum, it return total sum for you. When you do count, it return a total count for you. So when it comes to the measure, to the virtual table, you can not use those functions alone. When you use those functions alone, what they are going to do for you is that they are going to create a physical table for you. And like I said, it is not always advisable to be creating external tables within your Power BI. So that is why you have to use those functions with some other functions like SumX, count rows, average X, min X, minimal X, maximum X, concatenate, and rank X. So these are the functions that you have to use within. You have to use or wrap it within those other virtual tables function. So we'll look at the two dimensions of those virtual tables and how we can avoid the physical table appearance. So let's say, for example, values. We talk about values as one of the functions that returns a virtual table for us. So what is values? Does anybody know what values does within the Power BI DAX function? Anyone? What does values function does? I know that a quite number of us have used these functions a lot. So can anybody tell us what values does? What does value do? Like within your Power BI, what does the function do for you whenever you are using it? Anyone? Anybody? Anyone can speak. You don't have to wait. Anyone can speak. Please, let's speak. I don't want us to, some people will just come and join the class and they will go to the kitchen and start, so I want everybody to be engaged. So please, let's talk. So anyone, value function, what is value function? What does value function does? Have you used value function before? Anyone? Isaiah,
Yeah,
are
good
you there?
evening.
Okay, yeah, good evening. Go on, please.
Yeah, values returns distinct number of values on that column or
Yeah,
on the table. Yeah,
yeah, thank you
on the
very much.
column. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. So, like I said, if you look at this, we'll be using this retail sales as our sample, as our demo now. So, I don't know the person that defined values now. So, if you look at the functions values, is going to return what for us? It's going to return a unique values, a unique value. So, for example, now let's say that we have customer name. So, probably if you filter, or let's just choose the customer key. right? So sometimes you might say that maybe you should just filter by a particular customer. Particular customer might appear more than once, but when you want to, maybe what you want the values function to do is to return a unique values of that customer. So we don't want this customer to repeat, to repeat himself more than once, right? We just want one unique identification of that customer. So you can use the value function to achieve that. So let's see what the value function is going to do. So let's see physically, clear filter. So like I said, if you use the value function naked, like you use it single, like you did not inscribe it with other function, what it's going to do for you is that it's going to return a table, right? That is what it's going to do. So now let's see. Let me go back to my documents. Okay, so let's say that we just want to get the unique customer. The unique customer. Oh, okay. Let's say you want to just get the unique customer and probably the unique customer. So let's say, so when you want to create a virtual table like this, you go to your table, you click on new table, then you click on new table. Okay, so let's create this. So let's say unique countries, and we just say, let's change this one to the retail, let's say retail customer name. Let's remove this one. Okay, so let's achieve the unique countries. So now what I'm saying is that if you look at this data now, we have customer name. It returned the unique customer name. Probably if you try and filter, if you go back to the retail sales, we have about, how many customers do we have here? If you check here, you can see that we have 56,046 record. But initially we have how many customers? Just 17,000. So that means that some customers are repetitive. Now, that is not what we're actually here for. What we are here for is that the value functions, what it does, what exactly is it? Because our main focus is the function, right? What exactly is this value function doing? It's returning a table. Can you see? And if you look at this table now, this table is what is physical. You understand? It's physical. And what we are trying to say is that whenever you are using virtual tables function, don't create a physical table of it. And if probably you want to create a unique countries, don't come and create them within Power BI. Go and do it where? In the Power Query. It is advisable to do all those things within the Power Query, not here. Maybe, for example, now you only have this. Someone might say that, oh, I have this just single table and I want to create a dimension. Maybe I want to create customer dimension. I want to create product dimension. I want to create country dimension. Maybe because you see the element of those dimension here. And now you want to be using Power BI to do that. It's not advisable. If you go to your table model, you will definitely see this table here. You can even create your connection. But like I said, it's not advisable that you should use this method to create a table. So where does this value function, when should we use this value function? So you use this value function, mostly when you want to create a measure, not when you want to create a physical table. So let's just let me create a table and let me call it calculation. Please, I will still follow you.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now let me go back here. So now let's look at this same value function now. Let's say that we want to create or we want to count unique, maybe unique customer and, unique customer or unique product sold, right? We want to get the formula or the numbers. Sorry, this is step 13. Just give me a minute. I don't know why this barrier is. Okay, it's fine. So now, like I said, the unique country that we created here, left for me. If it is for me, I will not create this kind of measures here or create a kind of table if I want to do. So now, when should we use the value function? So probably maybe when you want to create like maybe unique countries or unique product, you can make use of your value function. So let's click on new measures. So it is always advisable you use your virtual tables function within the measures themselves. So let's say you want to count the unique products sold, right? The unique products sold. So we can see the value function, which is one of the virtual table function here. Now, what I said earlier is that whenever you want to create this kind of functions, you use them within some certain function, like what? Like count row, sum x, I think is in the I showed it earlier on. So you can see within the what count rows, average x, minimum x, maximum x, sum x. Those are the functions that you can make use of those of the value function. Now, what is this value function? Because a lot of people does not even understand some function very well. Because you just see that some people are using count rows values. What exactly are we talking about here? Now, look at it here. Count rows does what? It's going to count the number of record within what? Within your tables for you. And values is going to do what? It's going to what? It's going to what? To give you a unique values. Now, what is happening here? What is happening here? I want someone to explain these two functions together at this moment. Can you tell us what is happening here? Count rows and values. Can someone just explain to us what is happening here? These two. I want to. Okay, yeah, Olubunmi, your hand is up.
Okay, sir. I want to just try since values will return the unique values in that particular column, and then count rows will now return the total number of that will be total number of unique values in that particular column.
Exactly. You know that what values function does is what? Is to return the unique values. So what values the calculation here is not starting from count rows. The first calculation here is the values. So we need to understand this very well. The first calculation here is not count rows. The first calculation is the values. The values is going to look at the table and look at the columns and bring out what? The unique values in that column. Then count will now count, okay, how many rows does this value tables return for me? And that is now what going to be your final output, and which is going to be your scalar output, or whatever the result is. So the values here is like a virtual table. You will not see the table physically that, oh, you are creating a table, but it's a virtual table that is being created within this count row. I hope every other person understands. Olubunmi have explained it in a perfect way as well. So I just want another person to explain. So it's the values function is returning a physical table within this count row. So whatever values this this function return, it is now what it returned. The count rows is now going to count and give us the results. So probably let's just do the count of customer, and let's say retail customer name. Yeah, so retail customer name. So let's do so you won't see, what's it called? You will not see the result here because it's a measure. Definitely, you will not see it here. So you have to go to your report view and probably see the unique products. So you can see, so it returns 17,000. By the time you open it and you go to your value, calculate, you go to your display value and you pick none. So you see the entire record. And if you go to your normal, this table as well, the one that we did earlier, is it unique country or what did we do? Okay, sorry, I think we did unique. It's supposed to be unique customer anyway. So you see that the same record is what? 17,382. And that is also what we have here. So what I'm just trying to explain is that you use value function within measures, not to use the value function to create external tables, right? So that's for the value function. What we are going to be doing is going to be similar, and not too hard at all. So let's look at other functions as well. So let's look at the Please, I hope we understand the value function now. Please, do we
Yes.
understand? All right. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
now let's. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's look at the summarize function. Summarize function. So what is summarize function? So just like we know, most of all these functions are very, very related to SQL. For some of us are very good with SQL here. They are very, very related. In fact, everything that you can do at the SQL side of things, you can also do it in what? In Power BI side of things. They are just trying to replicate things or make things more comfortable for us within the Power BI. So you don't have to be going to SQL to do things there. You understand? So when we talk about summarize is just similar to what? To grow by. I think someone even have done this thing for us, maybe in our previous class or something. Someone has done it for. So, but I will just try to explain it, in a maybe in a different way. Now, summarize, just like I said earlier, that we should not create what? Physical tables within Power BI. Right? We should not create physical table within Power BI. So some people, maybe when they want to use the summarize function, what you will see them doing is what? They're going to be creating a physical table. Don't get me wrong, right? In some scenario, you have no choice than to create that physical table. So don't say, I went for one webinar class and the tutor was saying that we should not create physical class. No, don't get me wrong. It depends on use cases, right? Some use cases are very different. There will be a scenario that you have no choice than to create that physical table. But for best practice and for performance, right, it is not advisable to create all these tables within Power BI physically, right? But if probably peradventure you have no choice, you have to create them. For why not? You can go ahead. So we have the summarize function as well. That you can create. Right? So let's first see, like I told you that I'm going to be explaining them in 2 dimensions, the physical part and the measure part. So let's quickly look at the physical part of it, where the table is going to be shown physically, so that you understand it better before we go to the measure parts. Okay, so probably I can delete this one that gave us the physical table. I don't need it. So I just want to use it to explain earlier so that we don't get confused on the long run. So so we don't need the physical table. Okay, so now let's go back to, so let's go back to the table view. So let's click on new table. New table. So now we want to get what? Sales by category. We want to get our sales by category, or let's just say, let's say revenue. Want to know the revenue we generated by category, or let's say by, do we have any categories in this data? So let's check. Probably we can just do by, not sure we have category. So let's say maybe by country. So let's say by country. So let's say revenue by country. Revenue by country. Something. So we say summarize. So what the summarize does is that it's going to ask you for, the first thing it's going to ask you is the table name. The table name is the first thing here. So our table name here is what? It's going to be our retail sales. That's the table name. Now, it's going to ask you for what? For the column you want to categorize or you want to summarize, right? You want to summarize a particular, column. Mostly it's going to be categorical data, right? So we want to summarize the country column. So let's say country. So retail sales country, right? Now we want to find the revenue, right? The revenue. So let's say revenue here. Revenue. Then we are going to say calculate some, I'm not really sure whether we have in our data. I'm not sure whether we have sales amount in our data. So let's go back to the data and check it. So let's go back here. So if you look at this data now, we only have retail price and we have other quantity. So if you want to find the revenue. Who can tell us how do we get the revenue now? Or the total sales? How do we get the revenue or the total sales? Anyone? How do we get it within this function? Can anybody assist us? Anyone that have an idea?
Revenue is price times quantity.
Times quantity. Yeah, thank you. So now if you go back, if you look at this data, so what we want to do here is that we want to create a table that is going to summarize. You can see Australia repeating itself multiple times. So we don't want all these Australia to be repeating. We want to summarize everything together. We want to group everything. If you go to the country, you see that we just have about maybe 6 or 5 or 6 or 7 countries, right? So we just want to summarize everything together. We don't want all this repetition. I want to find the revenue of each of them. Like I said, it is not always advisable to create a physical table of this thing, but let's say that we want to create the table first, right? So now what we need to do here is that what we are going to change. So what we're going to do here is that this is going to change from sum to what? To mostly so what is it going to change to? Who can tell us?
SumX.
I think SumX.
Yeah, SumX. So it's going to change to SumX. So SumX is going to ask you for your table name. So we put your table name, then comma, then you say expression is what? Your order quantity multiplied by your retail price, which is your price, your selling price. So this is going to give us a physical table, right? So if you look at it, if you go back to your table and let's go to revenue by country. So can you see? You're going to get a physical table. Do you understand? So what I'm saying is that this summarize give us a virtual when you are using it with a measure, it's going to be a virtual table there because you are still going to get this output within your measure. But what I'm saying is that we should not be using, some people might not know when to use. They will just come and use it to create a table. And when they go to their reports, they will now come and create probably a table here. You'll come and create a table here and put your revenue country by revenue, you put it here. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to create this kind of measure. You can just create normal measure. Instead of creating a physical table for this, you can just create what? Create a normal measures for it. Just create a measure for it instead of creating, because this is going to be expanding your data. Because what we just have here is a very small data. What if the data increase? Will you now be doing it? Will you now be creating extra tables like this? So it's not advisable. So let's see how we can use measure. We use summarize with measure. So you can see that when we want to use summarize, dynamically no physical table appearance at all. We are not getting any physical table appearance. So you can use it, and you can use it with what? With SumX to aggregate sales by customer segment. These are just examples, so you can explore it at your own time as well. So these are just samples. So let's take a look at this one. So let's take a look at this. So this time around, I'm still going to use the summarize function, but I'm not going to use it to create a physical table, like the way I created a physical table here. So let's say want to create a measure now. I'll say new measure. Please, are we following? Are we following?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so now, like I said, whenever you want to create a virtual table, like when you want to use summarize function, you want to use values and some other function like if you want it to give you an output, you have to use it within an aggregate function. You have to use it with what? You have to use it with what? With aggregate functions like SumX, CountX, averages, like I mentioned earlier. So now we want to find the total revenue. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So let's say that I want to find the total revenue by total revenue by customer. So let's just say by customer. So by customer. So in this scenario now, we say some X. Sorry, give me a minute, guys. Just give me a minute. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, like I said, so now let's look at this function. Summarize, still the same summarize function that we're talking about. So we want to use it to summarize, the customer that we have and with their sales without creating a virtual table for them, right? Without creating any physical table. We still want to summarize their total revenue, or we can even do maybe by country. Like, okay, let's use country since we have used country before. So let's say revenue by country. Revenue by country, then summarize. So we are going. So the first summarize function holds what? The table. So the table name. So the first thing it has for is the table name. So you have to put in the table name. So the table name here is what? Is our retail. Our retail sales. That's the table name. Now, it's also asking for probably some of the dimension you want to put, maybe your customer ID or your customer name. So in case you want to. Sorry, who is that? Is that a mistake? Okay, I think that was a mistake anyway. So now let's say customer key, and let's say customer name. Then we want to find the what? What do we want to find? We want to find the amount, right? So for this amount, we are going to use some hex here as well. So let's say some hex, or let's use the total quantity, maybe total quantity here. Let's say total quantity here. So let's just do so let's just do other quantity here. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so let's go to the total quantity. So you can see the same summarize function that we are using to create a physical table. You can just make use of it, without, and probably you should put, let's say I want to put country here now. So let's say I put a country here. Where is the country? Country, okay. So you can still see, it will still break whatever you want to do with the country. If you have your dimension country, you will still get the results. So you don't have to be creating any physical table for your measure. I hope we understand that part now. I hope we understand what I mean by creating physical table, and instead of creating measure. So you can see that this place now we use summarize, but we are creating a physical table here. The same summarize is used here again, but we did not create any physical table. What we just do is we use aggregate function like sum hex to wrap it up, and we still get the same output. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Gifts, Kafayat, Alemat, do you guys understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that is that about summarize. So you can make use of the summarize function within your measures, and you can also use to create a physical table if you want. So I'm going to delete the physical table that we created. Like I said, I don't like creating physical table with within the Power BI. I don't like it because it's not the best practice. So let's quickly look at maybe one more examples. Yeah, let's just look at one more example because of our time. I don't want to spend much time here. I believe the rest are very easy. I will send you the documents to go through them, read over them as well. Okay, so let's look at one more function. Like, let's look at the add columns. I think this will just be the last one we'll look at today. Then we'll call it a day. Okay, so for the add columns, just similar to summarize functions and the values function that we did earlier. So add columns, what it does is that it's going to add another column, additional column to your measures. I'm sorry, to your tables. And whenever you create additional columns, it expands your models as well. So in some scenario, you might want to create an additional column. In some scenarios, that happens a lot. Probably it does not, or maybe in a scenario where you don't have access to Power Query. I have worked in an environment that I don't have access to Power Query. What I only have access to is the table view. I don't know whether anybody have worked in an organization, or maybe it might not even be in an organization. Maybe someone just share you a PBIS file. And if the person says your PBIS file, if you go to Power Query, you will not see the data. Probably because the data source is not on your own, is not correlating with your system, right? You will not see the data source. So maybe you only have the table view. Now you want to create, you have something that you want to add. Probably because you cannot go to the Power Query to do that. You now want to add that thing within your Power BI. It's allowed, but just know that it's also going to expand your data model. You understand? And that one too also can be avoided. You can avoid it as well by creating measures instead of creating Instead of creating a column, it can be avoided. I hope what I'm saying is making sense to us. I don't know whether anybody have experienced a case where you are share a PBIS file and you don't have access to the Power Query. You cannot go there and do some editing. You can only do it within Power BI. I don't know. Have anybody experienced that before? Have we experienced that before? Anyone? Anyone?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Or sometimes it might not even be in that scenario. Some scenario might be a scenario of, I don't know if anybody have worked with, okay, even if you're working with SSAS, like all these analysis service, you might not even have access to the data model at all. You will not even see anything. What you are just going to have access to is to create what? Is to create reports. Maybe one day, I don't know, if time permits us, I'm going to show you that experience where you will not have access, you will not even see your table view. You see this table, you will not see it at all. You will not see this table view. You might not even see if you go to Power Query itself, you might not even see the data in Power Query. The only thing that you just be seeing is that you just be seeing a fission of your models. And now, how do you do that in a scenario where you don't have the table view? So what you do is that instead of creating physical table, you cannot even create a physical table in this kind of scenario. So what you have to do is to use virtual tables to create some of your measures. So that is why you have to learn and know those virtual tables function very well. Do you understand? So that's why we need to learn them and know them very well. Okay, so let's look at the hard column. So what the hard column is going to do is that it's going to create an additional column. When you hear add column, it means that you are creating an additional column to an existing table, or it might be like you just want to create a new column yourself. You understand? So let's look at this table now. We want to create maybe an additional column here. So we are not creating table here now. What we just want to do is to create an additional column, because that is what the function does. So let's click on new column. You can see I did not click on new table. What I click on is what's new column. So new column. So let's paste this function. So let's paste this function. Revenue per product. Okay, revenue per product. So we want to calculate the revenue per each of these products. So you can see we have retail price, so this one will definitely give you 2,000. But what if the other quantity is more than one? So what is going to be the retail price? Do you understand? So that's what we want to calculate here. So so this one I would say sum X. Like I said, anytime you want to probably create a physical appearance of that information, you have to use it within sum X, right? So now so let's see. So sum X, add column, then I'm just going to edit this one. Value, we understand what values function does already. So value is just going to give you the unique values of the table. Then total quantity. So that is what we want to calculate. Is it total quantity? So we want to create the revenue per product. Total quantity multiplied by retail price, retail sales price. Okay, so let's check this one first. Shown an error. Okay, so let me remove this one. Okay, so if you look at this function now, what it does is that it's helping us to, it creates additional column. This column does not exist before. Revenue per product, it does not exist before. But now we are now having that column now. You can see we are now having that column. You can see that some values are not exactly, it's not like it's exactly the same. Some values are not exactly the same. So you can see, so we now have an additional column because that is what add columns does. Add column helps you to what? To add an additional column. So we have an additional column of total, maybe revenue per product, we want to get the product, the revenue per each of the product that we have. If probably you change this one to like, I don't know whether we can do the place value here. I doubt it. I'm not sure we can do replace here. Can we do replace? Okay, we can't do replace here. So now let's say that maybe we change this one to 2 now. You see that the value here is going to change as well. So, but okay, maybe let's check something. Do we have, okay, let's say 3. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So now if you look at this one now, retail definitely 2 times 2 is going to give you 4. So that's why you're saying that this one is 4. If it is 1 now, this is going to give you 2. The revenue per product is going to give you 2 here. So you can see that add columns is going to help you to add an additional column. But you can still also avoid creating extra columns. So we can use another function, or probably the way you use your function. So instead of creating a physical column, you can still use that function in another way, that you don't have to create a physical columns in your table. Like I said, if you can avoid creating extra columns, if you can avoid creating tables, please try as much as possible to avoid that. So instead of creating extra tables, let's just create what? Let's create a measure instead of that. So you can actually create a measure here. So let's see how these measures work. So let's look at this one. So for this one, we are going to create a measure instead of creating columns now. So we're going to say new measure. So you can say now the same hard columns that so it depends on your use case. Actually, it depends on what you want to achieve, right? It depends on what you want to achieve. But you just need to know that, okay, sometimes why do we have to combine multiple functions together to achieve just a single result? Is because if you should use the add columns alone, what you are going to achieve is that it's going to get what's it called? You're going to get a table result, or you get a column result if you do not put it within the sum X. or within the aggregation functions. So what you're going to likely get is a table function or a column result. So that is that. So for this one now, let's just change everything to. So let's change everything to product name, retail sales, order quantity. So let's change it to retail sales, order quantity. We're just changing the functions, the columns here. That's what we're just changing. So I think everything is fine. So what we're looking at here is what total quantity of all products, total quantity of all the products. So that's what we're using. And we are still making use of the hard columns here as well. So let's check it. Our times is already after 9. So let's just trying to watch the time. So let's see total quantity of all products. So you can still make use of the add columns within the measures. So you can see it's 84,000, which is also what we have. That's the total quantity of all the products. And if you want to use it within the table and you put in the product name, it's going to break it down for you as well. So please, everyone, if you can make use of the virtual tables within measures, please try as much as possible to use it within the measures and not use it to create extra physical table, because it's going to be affecting your models. When you are creating extra or unnecessary columns, where you can avoid, you can make use of measures. Please, let's try as much as possible to create measures and not be creating extra columns or creating unnecessary tables as well. So I think that's what where we'll stop tonight. I don't want to take much of our time actually. So if you have any question, so let's use it maybe in the next 10 minutes, to entertain questions. If you have questions, let's ask questions. If anything is not clear, let's try to. Okay, yeah, I think someone hand is up. Please go on.
All right. Good evening. Thank you very much for this session. So you were saying something about using measures rather than adding new tables or columns. But I thought using measures would also add columns as well. Based on the current. Based on the current. Okay.
No, that's not correct. Whenever you're using measure doesn't add columns for you. So you can see, for example, now, all the measures that we created, the total quantity, unique product, all these are measures. They don't create any columns for you. They are on the flies. Like, this is when they say that, your result is on the fly. This is exactly what they mean. You are not the tables. If you look at the add columns here, the add columns we use here, the table is not physical. You cannot see a model of the tables that we use within this measure here. Just like if you are familiar with CTE in SQL, maybe if you are coming from an SQL background, if you understand CTE, that whenever you use CTE in SQL, you create a virtual table. That virtual table you are creating within that measure does not exist. But within that measure alone, that is where it exists. I don't know whether you understand. So whenever you are using measure, you are not creating any columns or any physical table at all. It does not happen. Do you get that? I don't know the name of it.
Yes, like view. All
right. Okay. Does anybody have any other question? But what I would advise is that please don't just listen alone. You have to also practice it as well. Because when you practice it, that is when you can see the reality. Oh, okay, this one it doesn't create a physical table for you actually. Oh, this one creates a physical tables, and what we are just trying to learn here is best practice. It's not like creating physical table is a crime. It's not a crime, but we are just trying to look at best practice here. Best scenario, so that whenever you are creating reports for your organization, when they are complaining that a particular measures or a particular report is taking a longer time to refresh so you can just look at some of the DAX you created and see how you can optimize them. And that is what we are trying to solve or we are trying to achieve here today. Okay, so do we have any other question? Any question? Any other question? Any question? Okay, so I guess if there is no question, Isaiah, I think I will let you hand over. I will hand over to you, and you can probably properly end the session if there is anything for the participants to note down. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for having me. I really appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for that wonderful section. Mr. Folorunsho, please,
Yes.
are you going to send the resource material to the group, or?
Let me forward them to you. So if there's any modification
Okay.
you can do before you share it out, you can do that. Or you can let me know as well.
Okay, all right. All right, so we've come to the end of today's class. Just a brief announcement, a quick one. Yesterday's class was cancelled because the person that was supposed to take it was having some basically light issues, so had to reach us on time to tell us. But most likely we will reschedule the class and we'll let you guys know when we'll be having that cover up class for that. Also, please don't forget that we will have Chiamaka Saturday by 3:00 p.m. to complete our own session too. So please let's note this time and let's make ourselves available. And I would like to say this, that I don't think it's really nice that we get to bring people to come and teach us some of these things for free. We let us know about the date and time, and then it is the instructor that will still have to be waiting for some of us. I don't think that is really nice. And many times we'll have to be sending reminders, as if I'm even begging people to come and